Welcome to SEEK Bytes, a podcast by software engineers for software engineers. Today's episode is about lessons learned the hard way. We bring up topics such as adapting to your manager, clean code not being the end goal, social anxiety, and the difference between teaching, mentoring, and coaching. Plus, we bring up some interesting facts about our hosts. Welcome back to SEEK Bytes. Today we have a pretty exciting podcast today, and we have a returning host who's been on holidays for a while. Seamus is back.
Back from Japan.
Welcome back.
How was Japan?
I could talk for longer than we have time to record. I can tell you that much. It was fantastic. I'm already planning how to get back there.
Wow. Did you learn anything while you were there?
Work is not the be-all and end-all. I learned that much. 3 weeks away from work, I think, should give that anyone that perspective, I hope.
Do they work pretty hard there in Japan?
Yeah, too hard.
Too hard.
They have 6-day work weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Shorter days? Or
The peak hour at the end of the day is at 7 p.m., put it that way. Yeah, peak hour train is at 7 p.m., not 5 p.m.
Wowza.
Or 4 p.m. like it is here. One of the things that I found, this is like a surprising takeaway, is even at McDonald's, they check off every item on the list with a pen. They like cross it off to be like, we did not miss a single item. They count every note, every coin, so that make sure that you got exact change and stuff. Like the level of service there is just something for us to strive towards, I think.
That's amazing. Well, I asked about, did you learn anything? Because today's podcast is about things we learned the hard way. Things that we learn either from doing things wrong and then getting feedback from coworkers or managers or lessons in that way. So I've got 5 topics. So this has all come from an article by Jordan Cutler that I found that was published on March 3rd, 2024. So I have 5 topics in here, 5 talking points in here that I will bring up to kind of help lead the conversation. But absolutely, if you guys have experiences that you've had yourself, I'm definitely keen to hear them. And the first lesson is bringing solutions, not problems. So Jordan here, he would find issues in code, things that are happening wrong in his team, and he would go to the team and be like, hey, here's an issue. Can we resolve it? Essentially. He would keep nagging him saying, this is a problem. This is a problem. Rather than saying, this is a problem, how can I help you try and resolve it? He found out from feedback from his manager that because he kept saying that there was a problem, that kind of ended up just becoming like spam and noise, just hearing there was a constant problem without anyone trying to help resolve it. And I think that's a really good lesson because I certainly can remember times where I've done that and just thinking about, and now I find myself, if there's a problem, how can I try and help do it? Because if you just keep calling out problems without trying to support it in some sort of way, then that's kind of not going to go away anyway.
I think the only caveat that I would add is it's really good when people raise problems as trackable, like not just vocally at stand-up or something, but actually putting cards up. Someone who's joined our team recently has been really, really fastidious at carding up things that are definitely worth us improving, that are not just like friction points, but potentially problematic, like potentially production issue causing kind of stuff. And just having that in the backlog can be really beneficial. I've been in a lot of teams where no one does that. Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about, this thing sucks, or this is really hard, I'm having challenges with this thing, but they don't raise it as something that's trackable in a Jira ticket or something like that.
I really like what you said about trackable raising cards. Do you, when you're working on a code base, for example, do you spot things that you're like, oh, that's something we should do, that's added to do there, and it just never get looked at?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I think I've learned that lesson the hard way about like these things never get fixed unless you write it down somewhere where it's in a backlog that you're actually going to review during your backlog grooming sessions and that kind of stuff. I feel like if you don't do that, it just goes into the ether.
Yeah. Elliot, who's a host, who's not here today, but he suggested not just write, to do, implement later or whatever, this needs fixing, but to do, here's the card number, I've created it, and just bring it up with the team as well. So it's easier to track.
I like that one actually, like add the to-do, but link it to the card so that people can, that when they come across that to-do, they know that it's already been traced. They don't need to like put any mental effort into that. But if they're really curious and they want to fix it, they could just go assign themselves the card, pull it into the sprint if it's a small bit, do that bit as part of their refactor work or whatever.
I agree with all of that. I've also find that sometimes you're the person that wants to raise those cards for to do, but you're never the one that ends up doing them or wants to do them. And so I find sometimes that can become the noise. Like we keep having more and more cards in our backlog that some of these are important, maybe some of these are not, but like if you're going to be just raising cards as like we need to do this, I think there does have to be action to actually get them done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you don't want to just raise a card with a title and no detail. Like, especially because if you're at that point where you can see the friction and you can feel the friction, you probably have some context. Put that context in that card as well. That's probably a good lesson that I've learned as well. You might think that you're being helpful by just creating a card with a title like "Improve this piece of the code base" with a link to the code, but if no one looks at it for 6 months, you yourself are probably going to forget what that friction was as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a card that's popped up. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was during planning and it was raised like 6 months ago, and we're like, is this even relevant anymore?
Yeah.
Let's delete it.
Yeah. I've pushed our team to do more dedicated grooming sessions. We're just doing a quarterly grooming session so that at least every 3 months we're going back and looking at all the cards in the backlog so that everything in there is at least 3 months relevant. And we can also make sure that as we're going through, like, oh, this card's kind of a bit empty. You raised it maybe 2 months ago. Hopefully you still have enough context to add a little bit more detail. 6 months is definitely no chance for me.
Do you guys have any things? I think you were talking about something just before this podcast of things that you've done and kind of got feedback on.
Yeah.
And had to learn things the hard way.
Yeah, I think if I had to give it a title, like walking unpaved roads, having to solve problems that there aren't strong examples of in the business, or there aren't good examples on Reddit or Google or whatever for you to draw from. And you have to sort of, I guess, like walk that unpaved road, solve that thing yourself. Without going into details, I was in a similar position when I first joined the current team that I'm in 2 years ago. We had to, I spoke to experts in front end, experts in back end, in different areas of the business who, for all intents and purposes, should be the best person to talk to at the business about solving this problem. And I didn't really get strong opinions or really good examples of solutions. We kind of just had to walk that road ourselves. I think the lesson that I learned from that is failure is okay. It's much better to make an attempt, learn from it, and then share that learning and try and get the growth out of it. And I think a lot of people I get the impression that a lot of people are overly concerned with failure, just from like feedback that I hear around the business, professional feedback, that kind of thing. For me personally, I'm much more friendly towards failure. I'd, like I was saying before the podcast, I'd much rather hear 9 bad ideas to get to the one good idea than have everyone silently in the room churning on their own ideas and maybe getting one okay idea. So yeah.
When coming up for ideas, like ideas in Disney, that they would actually churn through, they'd write down the first 5 ideas and then start really looking at the 6th or the 7th and the 8th idea. Because those first 5, at least in creativity, it's been done before. And the later ideas were things that were kind of more out of the box thinking. And I don't know if that really relates too much with software engineering. Sometimes we know the solution and it's strong and solid. But I find particularly with things that are really new to us, you kind of do have to fail to really understand how something works.
But also like living with that, let's just say like the not ideal approach, like whatever implementation you come up with in that scenario, living with that implementation can teach you much more than you spending a month doing investigation and trying to find answers and talking to experts, going to conferences and, accumulating, brainstorming with all these different experts. Just building the thing and living with the pain can teach you things that those other people might not be able to see themselves. Because for a lot of us, when you're in that position where there isn't it's not like a queue or a FIFO, like it's not some commonly solved problem, it probably means that the issue is very specific to your domain, and just building the thing as best you can and living with it will teach you more than any other person outside of that domain could, really.
What about you, Raf? You got anything?
Yeah, I got really good feedbacks from my previous managers and my current manager as well about me saying yes too much, and I totally agree. And to the point where I have too much on my plate, so maybe we talked about that in a productivity podcast, so check that out. And the other feedback I've got was about how to deal with my social anxiety. You might have heard about the spotlight effect. It's just the effect where you think there's a spotlight on you all the time, and that you walk around and what do people think about me? What did I say? Did I say something wrong? There was an experiment that was done with a person who wore a T-shirt, and then they asked the person, how many people do you think notice your T-shirt, and do they care or whatever? And they said, 50%. And turns out only 20% or less. And out of the 20%, maybe they don't even care as much as you do.
They're probably just the kind of person who picks up on that kind of stuff. It's not that they're focusing on you. It's that they happen to be a social person and they notice these kinds of cues. It's funny that you mentioned that because I'm wearing earrings now, and I used to have earrings like long ago, took them out, but I got some again when I was in Japan. And a lot of people have noticed, and it kind of triggered this like social thing in my brain. Like, I didn't think anyone would notice or even comment on it, but half the people in the room did. But same thing. It's not that they're focusing on me. It's just that they're shiny things on my head. People are going to see them.
Right. Why did I bring that up was that I was at the point where I was afraid of failure. So what Seamus was saying about you're allowed to fail to learn from it. And we talked about that again from the previous podcast. But yeah, I was at a point where I was afraid to ask questions and afraid to make any mistakes or learn from it. And it wasn't a good space.
Yeah, probably I think a takeaway from that is a sign of a good manager is someone who promotes that kind of culture and that environment where they don't treat failure as failure. It's never, oh, well, that wasn't good. Let's try not to do that next time. But it's, oh, okay, what did we learn from that? Oh, we could do this better next time, that kind of thing, rather than let's not do that next time. Let's do this next time, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's right. What about you, Will?
There's a few on here, actually. There's another one on here that the next one in this article is actually one I really related to. So I may as well just bring this up now. But this lesson was clean code isn't the end goal. Jordan, and I guess myself as well, as a junior developer, I was ruthless in code reviews. I wouldn't let a single bad-looking piece of code go into production, and it made my teammates pretty darn upset at me. It got raised from my manager, and between the three of them, they resolved it, but it wasn't a pleasant situation to be in. So surprisingly, after this, I didn't learn as well as I should have. I scaled back a little bit, but then I had an issue with a different teammate constantly pushing back on my comments. It would lead to multi-comment back and forths in GitHub and some tension between us. I asked my coach at the time what I should do, and he said, what would happen if you let 50% of your comments go? Is the comment worth fighting over? And the answer, my code would be slightly less clean. But if you think about it, the code being slightly less clean isn't a good enough trade-off for there being tension in the team. So he started being more relaxed, and he found that him being more relaxed with the code reviews, actually he found that more of his input was taken on, because I think a big part of not just like giving feedback is also being likable. And if people like you, and they will take on your feedback more often. And that's something I experienced. I know when I started at SEEK, I think I was pretty ruthless in code reviews only because I spent so much time as a developer working by myself. I didn't work in a big team like this at SEEK until I got here. So I was just very into clean code. And now I find that the nitpicks, I just let them go. If it's, I don't want to block things, really speed, and just working together as a team for me was more important than beautiful, clean code.
I think I've been very much the same for a very long time. Like coming in to SEEK through the grad program, clean code is something that gets pushed really hard. And then you go out into teams and you see that it's not as prominent in the team culture. And so you're encouraged, you're told, challenge the status quo. As a grad, one of the best things you can do is challenge the status quo, help improve these kinds of things. And so you take it on as your responsibility. And then over the, half decade, 6+ years, especially that I've been here, it's one of those things that I've had to chill out on and just be less gung-ho about like clean code. The caveat that I think I would add is when it's written in a team charter, when you have engineering agreements within the team around approaches to these common clean, like the clean code problems often come up and it's the same kind of thing over and over again. When you've written that down somewhere in like an engineering architecture agreement, that's when it's not you that's challenging them. You just go, we as a team have agreed this, here's the link to the document. And that I found is a really easy like scapegoat way of essentially achieving the same thing. You're telling this person, hey, this doesn't quite meet our standards, but without them attaching you to that problem, some other amorphous entity, aka the team, has come up with this way of working. I think that's a really good way to sort of middle ground that.
Mm-hmm. I love that you both brought up code reviews, because that's one of the things that kind of didn't help with my social anxiety at first, the failures, and not because when I raise a PR, sometimes I get 50 comments and go, oh, is this code terrible? What is it? But sometimes you just didn't realize it was just a small comment, like a nitpick. And what we try to do in our team is we like have a prefix before the comment to say, this is a nitpick, don't stress about it too much, and this is my comment about it. Or this is a suggestion, it's not blocking. You can merge without this being being action or suggestion, blocking, or just, a simple praise like this is a great thing that you did, here's a comment. yeah, that one of the thing I notice sometimes is you get a comment without any of those like prefix, and then you get ghosted. You kind of like you implemented it, and you go, oh, so can I merge now? Is it a suggestion blocking? Is it, if it's blocking, maybe I just message you and say, hey, is this look all right now? But if this is just a nitpick, I might just go ahead and merge it. So
the GitHub function for like the blocking thing where you can leave a comment and then block the PR. So if someone else merges it, they can't merge. I've used that once. I felt really bad, but I do think that it's a feature that exists for a reason. And maybe if your team culture is quite positive, like the failure culture is positive, the feedback culture is positive, all these things we're talking about, being able to use that functionality when there is actually something that does break your architectural agreements or, is going to be problematic. Sometimes a comment is not strong enough to say that this thing must be addressed and in the way that we have agreed as a team. It's actually reminded me that feature exists and that maybe we should sort of normalize using it for those scenarios, so that's the difference between a comment and a blocking comment is, if I've not marked this as blocked until this is fixed, then what I'm saying should just be taken with a grain of salt. Like, it's my opinion. You don't necessarily have to do it. But I do like the nitpick and suggestion prefix. I use that on pretty much all of my comments now. And every time I forget to add that in, I'm like, is someone going to take this as the be-all, end-all? Like, I'm putting a hardline stance here because I didn't add nitpick at the start of my comment.
Yeah. That GitHub feature, is that a suggested change or something?
Not the suggested. I think I can't even remember what it's called exactly, because I've only used it once. But there's a feature where you can, I think you leave a comment and then block merging, or it might
request changes.
Oh, that's right.
Request changes.
Request change.
It can't be merged until that specific change has been addressed.
Yeah. Another prefix I forgot to mention was question. It's just a simple question. Like, what does his code do?
For your own benefit.
What's his line for?
Yeah, for your own benefit.
It's like you're doing semantic like comments.
Right.
I definitely use that. Like, if I don't want this to be merged in without like something being fixed, I will use that. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes, but mostly, like, if I leave a comment and it's just comment, then I don't care if it's just resolved. And we do have in our current team that all threads have to be resolved before you can merge. What do you guys think about that?
Like, all comments have to be resolved?
So all comments have to be resolved before you can. So, like, even if I leave a comment, they still have to resolve it before they can merge it in. Like, it gets blocked.
What if you just have a question?
Well, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, for me, I don't feel like everything has to be resolved. Yeah, if it is a question, maybe it's nice to keep that open for when people, open the PR in future. They don't have to open up all of these little things that might be important.
That's my first thought, is if I'm scanning through a PR, I treat resolved as don't look at this anymore. Like, there's no value in looking at this. There was a problem, we resolved it. Unless you're specifically like been told to look at that or someone's referred you to it, then you open it up and have a look. But I resolve things to reduce cognitive load. If everything has to be resolved, I'm going to open everything and scan everything to figure out what's actually relevant. Whereas a floating question can be good to just link back to. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would not probably implement that in my team, I think.
Yeah, same. It's something I'm pretty new to the team, so I don't want to make any dramatic changes. But that is one I've noticed recently that, yeah, I've been wanting to keep some of these unresolved because they're helpful.
Yeah, fair.
Nice.
Lesson 3. I thought this one was interesting. It's something maybe we've touched on before, but this one is team outcomes over individual outcomes. So in this one, he had a habit of getting distracted by code improvements. Let me quickly read. I had a bad habit of getting distracted by code improvements I could do as I was working on my main project. Don't get me wrong, it's okay to do a little bit. You should improve things as you go, but I'd take on whole initiatives, like being annoyed at our code base and converting 40 plus files to TypeScript and putting it up for review when the code base was in JavaScript. Luckily, at least I was doing what was usually agreed upon, but it wasn't the bigger picture. All that code I was putting into review isn't just my time taken up, it's my teammates' time. And it's extra risk for our team to merge and deploy, and it wasn't accounted for. I could have focused on moving the business forward for our team, like asking my manager what the top concerns were and focusing on those, finding ways to support the team in their tasks, or taking on bug reports from customer support. And this is something that actually personally found myself experiencing, and particularly now that I'm in a new team, I've been maybe doing this more often, is like trying to help support the current structure of what's there and help just like uplifting some of our things rather than focusing on what are the main initiatives at the moment and picking up tasks. Like I recently have been adding more tasks for me to do, kind of pushing tasks in rather than finding work that's there and popping them out. But I think that's a lesson and something I need to improve on is like, something I need to improve on only because this also helps further your career, because you making an impact in your team and doing the things that are really important in your team for initiatives and all that stuff is going to help you more in the long run for getting promotions rather than just fixing up, code, deleting old files and stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubt everyone appreciates someone who's proactive about improving code bases and stuff, but the people who have an impact on your career growth aren't those people. Like your colleagues, you get feedback from them, and that's really important. And it's a very important thing to have good team culture and good relationships with your team. But at the end of the day, the people who are going to actually say yes or no to promotions and your career growth are the people who are looking at what the business cares about, which is not like the friction in your code base or some mapping function that's not easy to read, that kind of stuff. What they care about is, did we deliver on time, under budget, that kind of stuff.
That's right. Increasing like your tests from 80% to 90%, they're not going to care unless there's some sort of initiative that's like all our code bases have terrible tests. We need to stop breaking production.
Look at the article. I quite like the diagram that he's added. It just reminded me what we talked about last podcast about the push-pull system, having so much work in progress. So the diagram, just imagine, you have an in tray of work that comes in, and there's an X that says stop pushing work onto your in tray. There'll be like so much work in progress. Rather, you take things out of your in tray and pop them out, or work on those first to get better focus.
Yeah. Have you guys found yourself kind of stuck in some of those mundane things that even that you've just brought up and you're like, all right, I kind of need to fix this, but then found that hasn't really been useful to the team?
Yeah, I think I feel like this is relevant for me right now because I'm shifting towards more of a pop mentality, and I've felt like the responsibility has largely fallen on myself and other people who are in leadership positions in the team to generate new work and highlight points of friction. But as the team has moved from storming and forming and into a more performing stage, which for anyone who hasn't heard those terms before, in the life cycle of a team's age, when you're very new and everyone's 3 months into a team, you're storming and then you're forming and then you're norming. So you're normalizing what your behaviors and working agreements are. And then performing is when everything's kind of stabilized and you're really refining and becoming like a high performing team. And our team is kind of in that performing stage now where we're starting to refine, starting to like become even more high performing than we might already be. And that benefit of being in that stage is more people in the team are able to push into the queue, and then like I don't need to take that burden on largely myself, and so I'm just pulling things out, and it feels much more healthy for me personally because I don't feel like I have this exponentially or infinitely growing list of backlog of tasks that I'm adding to the queue that I've got all the context on, and I feel kind of responsible for solving myself. Yeah, I think I 100% agree with this one.
In saying that, though, I've been finding while I've been onboarding into a team, pushing some of these tasks in has been helping me onboard really quick because I'm essentially just like looking at all of it, like our repos, seeing what there is, and it's given me a really good grasp on what we have and what we, how things were and some things I can improve. It's not something I know I'll be doing long term, but while I've just been onboarding, I feel like I've been, trying to, as quickly as I can, just bring some benefit and learn about the team.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make because I think whenever you're joining a new team, that can be a really strong characteristic to show the team that you care about the quality and you're not just a resource to just punch out the code that everyone else is asking you to do. Because that's a very contractor mentality, right? When you come in and you're just pure pull mentality. You never push, you just pull all the time. We have had contractors who, in my mind, are some of the best engineers I've ever worked with who definitely pushed a lot of work into the pipeline, but they always had really strong solutions to back it. And like we weren't working off of a foundation of here's a problem, what do we do about it? They were always, I found a problem, I know the solution, let me write it down for you guys, anyone can pick it up and do the work. Very different kind of thing. But I think when you're first joining a team, really good behavior you can do to like establish yourself as someone who is very passionate about improving stuff can be pushing a lot of improvement ideas into the backlog. It's a balancing act. Like it depends, right? It depends is always the answer.
This entire topic kind of came up because we do have a mentor program here at SEEK, and it's something I've recently joined up for, and I've just had an interview with the first potential mentor. They get to pick from the graduate, and yeah, it was my very first time like doing that and realizing, just talking, like I feel like a lot of your mentoring is also a lot of your own experiences coming into play, which is why I wanted to bring this up. And I'm even kind of just mentioning some things to them when I was talking. Sometimes it is like, more the do as I say and less as I do sort of thing, because like something like this I know is something I've learned that I need to be doing more impact or having more impact in the, like for the team, like for the company, not just the team, for the company, to really move on to my next step. It's just something I know recently I haven't been doing, but also I've been enjoying what I've been doing as well. That's the hard bit. Like I do enjoy building tools and helping devs do things better.
Yeah, talking about mentoring, I think something I've just written down, lessons learned the hard way. There is a difference between mentoring, teaching, and coaching. Mm-hmm. And anyone who has a goal for themselves to be in a leadership position, or be in, not even just a leadership position, but be in a position where others are going to look to you, you should invest some time in learning what the difference is between those things.
What is the difference between teaching, mentoring, and coaching?
So we run some programs at SEEK, Seeker for Success, Coaching for Success, Coaching for Seek-cess, those kinds of hilarious business names. Teaching is obviously like the classic whiteboard, like I know a thing, you just need to be given information. Let me explain that to you. And a lot of people approach mentoring and coaching from that perspective, because that's probably, for a lot of us, that's most of the mentoring they've ever received has been the teacher-student kind of relationship. Coaching, this is something that I'm still this is the growth thing for me moving into leadership positions. Coaching is very bespoke per person. It's less about me teaching you a thing and more about me helping you come to your own conclusions. And then mentoring, I've really struggled to distinguish. Once I've made those two differences, I'm like, what's the third one? What's mentoring? But I think for me, the really strong takeaway that I've had whenever this comes up is when you're working with other people and you're in a position like a senior engineer position, and part of your role is expected to help other people grow, not everyone is receptive to teaching. Not everyone wants to be taught, but almost everyone wants to be coached, whether they know it or not, because coming up with your own answers is really validating, and it's really rewarding to like know that you came up with that this thing you were struggling with, you actually had the answer in you all along. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how to be a great coach.
The example that came to mind about teaching versus coaching is my personal experience that I've been going through the last 3 weeks with having a new grad in our team. I've been buddied with her quite a bit, pairing quite a lot. So the first week, I felt like I was doing a lot of teaching. So, first step, git clone. Second step, go change the code. Third step, format and lint. All that sort of stuff. Now it's third week in, and so I'm kind of more of stepping back a bit and more coaching and going, what does this card require you to do? What's the benefit of this? How do you think we should do it? And then kind of asking more questions that kind of lead to the answers, rather than giving her, step by step of what to do.
I looked up the difference between coaching and mentoring. This is one definition, but let me know how this correlates to yours. Coaching involves regular feedback on performance and progress towards defined goals. It's more structured and goal-orientated. Mentorship emphasizes broader advice and wisdom, with feedback often provided in a more informal and holistic manner.
It's in the back of my head, I could feel it, and I just couldn't summon the idea. But that makes sense, especially considering, so we do mentoring, like you were just talking about the mentor program. I've been in the mentor program for a little while, and that is very much on point with my experience. It's informal, sitting down at a hot desk somewhere, just grabbing a bench, grabbing a coffee, and just talking about things that they're challenged by, or them just picking your brain about like, I'm thinking about solutions architect as my long-term career goal. What are some tips you could give me about that? And that's just you speaking from experience. It's not teaching. You're not giving them specific information that's, categorized like, we're going to learn X today, and by the end of this lesson, you're going to know X. It's just, let me, ad hoc, back and forth, casually give you a bit of information from my experience. And then obviously, like we said, teaching is speaking at someone, and coaching is asking and helping them come to the conclusion themselves.
I like that the mentor program is from the person who's not in your area as well, so you get an insight as well of an outside.
There's no like attached expectations around like, oh, I can't say this or I can't say that because you're in my team and you'll know what I'm talking about. I can say something that might not be 100% positive about the domain that I'm in without that person being able to put two and two together and figure out what you're talking about.
Not just that, more they can give you advice about other things that you might not see from your day-to-day in your team.
Yeah.
So they might be experienced in other domains as well that they're more aware of, and give you a bit broader advice.
Yeah, having access to a mentor that's in the position you want to be in 5 to 10 years can be really powerful.
Yeah, that's what I said to my mentor the other day. I was like, I'm kind of looking at myself like to you as me in 5 years' time. So maybe you can give me some tips and talk about your day-to-day kind of thing. We just have casual chats like what have you done today kind of thing. Like
talking about lessons on the hard way, like this is triggering some things in my mind. You're talking about social anxiety and that kind of stuff. Becoming a mentor for the first time and realizing that the person you're mentoring is looking at you the way that you just described it. Like they're looking at me, or in this case you, and thinking, I want to be this person in 5 years' time. That can be a really daunting thing. But one lesson that I've learned is that the heaviness of that is internalized. Like it's coming from you. They're not looking at you and expecting the world. They're happy with whatever you can give them. They're happy just to have someone there who's willing to give their time to help you out. And once you start to realize that, it becomes much easier and much more like comfortable and fun to mentor people, because you're not holding on to all of this like expectation that I must be the mentor for them that my mentor was for me.
Let's move on from mentors and coaches, and let's head on to managers. So this lesson is adapting to your manager. Jordan says, as much as we'd like to have a magic guide to working with your manager, the only true guides are the ones that focus on adapting to your manager. He's had 5 managers in his professional career, and he's had to adapt to each situation. For example, when it came to getting to the next level or focusing on career growth, some will be more proactive and tell you exactly where you need to do. Others have too much on their plate to be able to give you that level of attention. In those situations, he's had to proactively create a plan for himself to get feedback. There is way more to adapting to a manager, and he does have more information. But that is something that I've experienced. I've definitely had different managers that manage differently. I've had one who was a lot more the talking at you sort of person. When at that time I would have loved to be the person who was, asking more of the questions. And then I had a manager after that who was very much like, those are your goals, let me help you get to them. And these are the steps that I can do to help you refine those goals. And I think that is really important. Like your manager is a big player into getting you to the next role. So adapting to your manager, I think is a really, really good takeaway.
I don't think that I disagree with that necessarily.
You don't have to disagree.
But
no.
I think there's a term that I heard coming into SEEK, servant leadership, which I thought this was a new concept because I've had a lot of managers, I've had a lot of jobs. Anyone who knows me knows that it's kind of an ongoing meme that there's a new job every, each time you talk to me, I'll mention this new job that I had, be like, how is this possible? So I've had a lot of managers, and it's only recently that I heard the term servant leadership, but it was actually coined by Robert Greenleaf in a 1970s essay. So it's not a new thing, but it's definitely something that I think is under-practiced. And while I agree with the fundamental idea of adapting to your manager, I think being adaptable in general is a good skill to have. It's a good trait to have across the board. So obviously it must also be true for adapting to your manager. But I think a really exceptional manager who embodies servant leadership should be adapting to every individual on the team and understanding what that individual needs to grow. Like, do they need a teacher? Do they need a mentor? Do they need a coach? What areas of their profession need the most attention? How can I help this person become what they want to become? Not just what I want them to become, but what they want to become as well. So I think it's kind of both ways. The manager and you both need to be adaptable.
So that's great when you have a good manager.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Yep.
How do you deal with, for example, a micromanager and you having to adapt to it?
Yeah, because I I think like you said, a good manager should adapt to you. But a lot of people get into management roles and it's just not for them. Either they've just taken the wrong path or whatever, and they've had to become a manager. So sometimes you do have to adapt to that manager yourself. And even some good managers just don't manage the way I wish I would like them to.
I did give a very ivory tower response then. It was very like coming from this great business that has excellent culture around leadership and, like failing culture and everything we've talked about already. It's easy to be like, a good manager should adapt to me.
Yeah.
But in reality, I got a lot of friends who work for smaller tech companies where the business is under a lot more pressure. They have smaller workforces. They don't have, the strongest engineers in the world. So they're trying to make do with what they've got. And in those kinds of environments, you don't get to pick and choose the way that we do. They don't have the kind of sideways mobility that the SEEK offers. And in that situation, I think that's actually really good advice for anyone in that situation where you don't have the kind of work culture where you could give upwards feedback to your manager to be like, hey, this thing that you're doing is not quite working for me. Probably in that situation, the best thing that you could do is adapt to them and become what they want you to be. And maybe then they'll micromanage less.
Yeah, become what they want you to be. Yeah. I don't like that wording too much. I think it's like you... because they might not have an expectation on that, right? That's just how they manage. So I think it is just kind of working with their constraints, their limitations, and trying to but that is hard. I think particularly, the more senior you get, the more you can become adapt to the like molding to your manager. But when you're in a junior position, like you don't know that. You probably haven't had a lot of managers to understand that you can do that you can adapt to your manager a little bit. Not the other way around. They're not forcing you to work this way. You can adapt as well.
Yeah, thinking back when junior times, I'd probably be more afraid to speak up and give feedback upwards. Have you felt that as well? A very funny story. I don't think I've told a lot of people, but so in the Thai culture, I'm Thai, by the way, background Thai, but I'm Aussie born. But we all have nicknames, and all my friends know each other by nicknames, right? And my nickname's my middle name. And before I
want to say it so bad.
You want to say it? Seamus knows this, actually, yeah. So on my first professional job, I applied using my real first name, not my nickname. So all through high school, through uni, everyone knew me by my nickname, which is my second name. And when I applied for my first job, I thought, I have to, use my real name, or I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, so I used my first name, and I rarely use that first name, and it's Raphael. And my first day on the job, my boss goes, "Oh, hey, can I call you Raf?" I'm like, sure. And back in my mind, like, please don't fire me. So it kind of stuck then, and that's my first name now. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
Might surprise you to know that my name's not Seamus.
Yeah, there you go.
My legal name's not Seamus. I've had friends for 10 years who never knew that, and then when they find out, they feel betrayed on some level. I'm like, it's not my legal name, it's just what everybody calls me.
Wow, is it like Shamington or something?
It's Sean.
Sean,
yeah. It's Sean.
What?
Yeah, right? That's the reaction I always get. It's like, I feel like I've been betrayed.
You lied to us.
It's less so that, it's that Sean is the shorter version.
Yeah, why would you choose the more complicated name? Yeah, it's not really a complicated story. It's just my grandma wanted to call me Seamus. My parents thought I'd get picked on, so they called me Sean, but then everyone called me Seamus at home. And then at one point in high school, I moved schools, and the first kid I met there was like, Sean, boring. Do you have a nickname? And then from then on, that's how I introduced myself as that from then on, basically. And I came to SEEK, and pretty much as when I was signing the contract, I made at that point, what's your preferred name? I just wrote it down. And then everything got set up as Seamus. And so I'm just doing that from now on. Anywhere I go to work, I'm just always going to put down Seamus as preferred name so that everything gets set up with that. Makes it easier for me. I don't like Sean. It feels really like official and weird.
Very nice. Do you have another name, Will, that we don't know about?
No, it's just William. I mean, I always have William on all my things, but people still ask, like, do you like Will or William? I've never met a Will who's wanted to be called William, though. Like, unless you're a royal.
Yeah, Will I am.
Yeah, Will is fine. Honestly, I don't care. If you're going to write it on an official document, I want William because it looks professional and people treat me as if I'm older. Like in emails, people treat me more professionally if I write like William Lark and they don't know what I look like.
Or say your full name, you're in trouble. Yeah. Say your full name.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming back around to giving feedback to your manager and being afraid about, giving that feedback. I feel like adapting to your manager as you grow to become more senior, you have that confidence, I suppose, the ability to give that feedback back to your manager, who may be a micromanager, and say, what's your expectation of me? Am I supposed to just listen to you like a robot and do all these things? Or would you like me to think more or contribute, those kind of things? And then maybe they would realize that they give too much instructions and should let you think and, be more autonomous maybe.
I think I was probably very hesitant to... I've had some very horrible managers. I've had some borderline like abusive managers before when I worked in technology, to the point where they would like insult you as a strategy to bring you down, to stop you from getting too high on your ego or thinking that you're better than you are. And they vocalized that with me in 2 years after working for them, that they did that in the interview or whatever. And I was like, they called me arrogant in the interview to just to peg me down a notch so that I didn't pitch for a higher salary. And I'm like, woo! So, yeah, big red flag.
This is a car salesperson? This sounds...
No, this isn't technology. This is working like a sysops, like a desktop engineer kind of thing. So, yeah, I could... Right now, my gut response is I feel very confident to give feedback upwards. And, in fact, a lot of the feedback that I get is that they're grateful for that. Especially, I've got, my boss's boss coming to me for feedback on my manager. I think that's a really positive sign that far up the chain, they want your opinion about their managing style because they feel like they can benefit from it and give them growth. I think it's very hard to get meaningful growth feedback when you reach that leadership, like lead engineer, senior staff engineer level, because your group of peers shrinks down to maybe 4 or 5 people, and they don't all have the time or even really work with you close enough to give really core feedback. And at that point, getting feedback from the team that they manage that isn't just, oh, I like this or I don't like that, but I think that these things could, be changed or improved. Here's my suggestions. Here's what might work for me. If everyone in the team is giving that feedback, then they can sort of aggregate the best ideas and make improvements that way. And I've seen meaningful impact, meaningful change come within my own team because of that upwards feedback. So I'm confident about it now, but I wasn't always confident about it. And again, Ivory Tower, we're in a workplace where we can give that kind of feedback and it doesn't come back on me negatively.
I remember you mentioning the book Radical Candor. Yeah, so I went and read it. So thanks for that, Seamus. It's a pretty good book. There's also some negative kind of trend that came from it as well, that managers use that as an excuse to be mean, too blunt and things like that. But it did, on the revised edition that I read, there were some corrections about it as well. Like this does not mean that you can be... What's the word? Mean, I guess.
Yeah, people kind of took I can be brutally honest.
Right.
Yeah, I can give people negative feedback. It's not about that. It's about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Radical Candor is about being openly vulnerable to create an environment of vulnerability where everyone feels okay expressing their opinions and feelings.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So the two things that they talked about was challenging directly, so speak out, but not without. You need to do caring as well. So show that you care personally about the topic. So I can't just go, Seamus, you did a terrible job at this, and then that's it, But, show that, Seamus, I care about your work. I care about your growth. And this is not, the best way to do it.
Seamus, I've been watching you for a long time.
I have.
Your code is not clean enough.
Yeah. Yep. I've been stalking you just to make sure, but it's from the bottom of my heart. Love stalking.
I love it, but stop.
Yeah. That was a good one. The last one that I have here is called Influence Isn't About Wording. And we've kind of talked about in another podcast, I think, or maybe I just mentioned it to someone, that to help grow yourself in your career, that you kind of need influence. Influencing bigger circles helps kind of progress up the chain a little bit. But this one is about influence isn't about wording. So this person had read books about influence and persuasion and how to word things to become more influential. Hearing things like get people to say yes to something small so they're in the mindset of saying yes already in your next request. Or saying, would you be open to, rather than can you? Because people like the idea of being open-minded, which they associate to open to. Now, all of these things are helpful and you can certainly use them to get what you need done. But what's more impactful is building relationships rather than just using the right words. Because you don't have to think very hard about how to word a request when you're asking a good friend or someone you have a good relationship to. And then I think is such a big one. I think a big part of how I try and fit into a team is trying to have that relationship. I like a good, collaborative, well-liked team. I feel like it's just so much more harmonious, and you can build that influence if people like you. And the same, and we were just talking about in PRs not being the nitpick. People, like you, you're going to be more influential.
Yeah, I mean, good friends don't assume the worst, right? Like in Australia, we colloquially call each other cuss words just casually. You don't assume that they're meaning that in a mean, hurtful way. You assume that they're meaning it in a friendly, good way. And that's very true in the professional environment as well, right? Like the comment thing coming full circle, that's a really good example. Like if the relationship between you and your colleagues is strong and healthy, then they're not going to assume that it's coming from a place of malicious intent, right?
Did you find, because you were talking about that you've had managers that would hurtfully say things. Were they hurtful as well because, one, they were wording it wrong, and two, you just weren't very close to them?
Well, this particular person that I'm thinking of, like, it's weird because I always refer to them as one of the most impactful managers on my professional life.
Yeah, because they've scarred you and you need to take medication now.
it might have been just my age at the time, not having enough experience. Like I don't know, but for me personally, this person was really pivotal in how I viewed my career. Because while they did things like called me arrogant to neg me basically in an interview, they also said that I was much more capable than the role that I was in and I should go get a degree. And I went and got a degree because of those words, because of the things that they said to me. So they definitely, I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't work for that person. So it's really weird to balance both sides of that coin. But he's also, this person in particular, taught me things like you're saying about it's not just the words that you use. He one time gave me the advice that he said, "Why do you think I randomly give out chocolates to people? It's because in 3 months' time I might need a favor. And it's much better to have this person think of me as the nice guy who brings them chocolates than to think of me as the manager 2 doors over that needs something from them now."
Right, he does a soprano approach where he gives you gifts.
He's like, build healthy, strong relationships with people that you don't even need something from now, because you work somewhere long enough, chances are you might need them, or you're going to be working together with them and you're going to have to make resourcing trade-offs with that other manager. And that's stuck with me for a really long time. I think I like the idea in principle, but I don't like the idea of just being nice because you might need something down the road. I would just say be nice and you'll get things, but don't do it to get things.
Yeah, that's right, because then you're just being nice for your own personal gain,
stuff.
right?
Yeah,
right.
You have an incentive now because you might want something. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think a big thing for me when I started working at SEEK was just talking to people and connecting with more people, building those relationships, because you never know, you might be working with them later on another project, and having that prior relationship, a good relationship, is really going to help.
To me, chocolate helps, but I think facts help me a bit more. So, if you can tell me why you want something done a certain way, then I'd probably be more reasonable to it. Or if you have a Jedi powers, Jedi mind trick, wouldn't that be great?
Bring omiyagi back from Japan. Matcha Kit Kats. That's how we get it done.
Oh, that's why you did that, Seamus.
Oh no, my secrets, no. No, I do that because everyone who's gone overseas in our team has brought back treats, and I feel like if I'm the first person to break that precedent, I'll be the one who's everyone's looking at me oh, that guy didn't bring back treats.
Yeah, I'll never do it my favor again.
Yep.
No.
I'll be outcast forever. No more cake for you.
Have you ever found yourself, Raf, in a position where you think you've worded things wrong and it's kind of hurt a relationship?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
I can't think of one at the moment, but I'm sure I have.
Yeah, I can't think of one either, because I also don't think it's always the wording that really, it's got to be more than just saying something mean one time that's going to break down a relationship, I think.
Saying that, I do write Slack message real quick, and then I really quickly edit it all the time, maybe 3 times, and read it over 3 times and then edit it again.
After you've posted it, right?
Right,
Post,
yes.
Edit.
Yes.
I do that all the time. I'm sure that I have, actually. I'm not someone who's been free of friction from a social aspect in all my work environments. I'm a very outgoing person. It's just by my nature, and that's not for everyone, especially in software engineering. And sometimes that friction, other people can't just can't gel with it. And that comes out in Slack messages and in PR reviews and stuff like that. I'd like to think that I haven't done anything egregious, but I know that I probably more than other people around me, I've had terse PR reviews or terse Slack threads. And to the point where people in teams that were not related to the thread, like they have no stake in it, they just happen to stumble on the thread, have like mentioned it to me like, oh man, I saw that thread the other day. Like, oh, what's going on there? Just because I'm not afraid of a little bit of abrasive interaction if the outcome is to work towards better code, better working conditions, that kind of stuff. I would like to think that I have a healthy relationship with backing down when it's the right time to back down, but I'm also someone who would kind of lock horns with someone if I think it's necessary. So I think I've definitely said things or done things that have made relationships here at SEEK even harder. But I would like to think that over the course of years of working with people, that those things are, neutralized by the generally positive and happy, carefree nature that I try to reflect all the time.
Yeah, I've learned to let go a little bit of that. I remember my first job, I was so anxious about writing emails. Do I write best regards? Do I write kind regards? What do they think about me if I put this full stop right here? Is that too blunt? I get always anxiety about that. And even in instant messaging, like do you ever look at, this person's typing? They stopped typing. Wait, now they're typing it. Now they stopped typing. What's going on? So learn to let go of that a little bit and just think of the more positive side that everyone's here to help you. And, maybe you write something that's not gel with someone, but, it's probably not a big deal. That T-shirt thing, right? Like 50% you think, but it's probably 20% that really cared or noticed even.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something that even though wording always, is an influence, but I feel like depending on your role, if a lot of your job is done over email or text and stuff like that, I think wording probably is a much bigger part of it. Because I have been told, this was years ago, but I was told off for writing emails too harshly. Like I didn't know, but I guess I would just be very to the point. I never said anything mean, but they'd be like, send me like, hey, is this done? And I'd be like, yep. Like in an email.
Efficient.
Yeah, rather than, hi there, yeah, we've done this, something, best regards.
You're just too far in the future. You're ready for Slack before Slack existed. You're treating email like Slack and people are like, this is like a handwritten letter. You should treat it seriously.
Yep, because that was a lesson I learned the hard way, like being nice over email and even Slack and stuff like that. Like it does come across nice. Those were my topics that I had, learning things the hard way. Have you guys got anything else that you've learned as well?
Another lesson I learned as well that I would really like to share with my past self was giving feedback's great, like learning from your failures and getting feedbacks from that, but also getting the hard feedbacks about what you're doing wrong. Not just, have all these, what they call cheerleaders, like everyone's giving you good feedback, but not giving me the bad feedback until it's too late. Like that I'm not performing or that I did something wrong just because it might sound bad. It's not bad feedback, but more constructive feedback on what you've done wrong so you can improve. But what do you think, Will?
That's definitely one of the hard things of being coaching, mentoring, anything, is you sometimes have to be the one to say the things that aren't being said.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge for every leader, really. Sometimes you do have to give that constructive feedback, which, again, we come back to it, radical candor really helps there. When you've got a trusting, open relationship with the people that you work with and work for, or work under, whatever, then it makes it a lot easier to have those conversations where you can, this is coming from a perspective of like wanting the best for you. This is something that you do that you could improve on or you could change that behavior. That's definitely probably one of the hardest things that I deal with regularly now. And one of the things that I've probably put a lot of thought into in the last 6 months is how to do that, how to give constructive feedback. I thought that's one of the things that I was always strongest at, is being able to have those honest, borderline blunt conversations with people. But it's way harder when you're not a colleague, when you're their manager. It is the relationship changes in this weird way that I was not fully prepared for. I guess that's one little sign-off lesson learned the hard way is you might think that you're really good at something until you're actually in the position where it's part of your role description, and it's like the whole thing shifts and changes.
Your ivory tower crumbles. Yeah. But I think that's a wrap for today's episode. Really, really interesting things here. Great to have you back, Seamus.
It's good to be back.
Sean. Seamus. No, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know who that person is.
great to have you back. And thank you, Raf, for joining in. And thanks, everyone, for listening.
It's
Till
been a
next
good one.
time.
Cheers.